Welcome to the final Vibrant Music Teacher Chat of 2020. We're going to be getting ready for 2021 today, preparing with thoughts and predictions and hopes about the future for your studio as well as for our industry at large. But if you're brand new to the show, then hi, welcome. It is fantastic to have you here. If you haven't met me, my name's Nicola Canton and I am a piano teacher over in Dublin in Ireland, and I run the Vibrant Music Teaching site, which helps teachers like you to teach more creatively and have more fun while doing it. So make sure to check out our membership if you haven't already. While you're here on the channel though, make sure that you subscribe and hit the like button on this video if you do enjoy it and want to see more stuff like this. Today we're talking about inspiration and ideas for the industry moving forward. But before that, we have our normal music teacher news, so let's dive into that. Getting up to date with all things going on, I'll start with myself. So, the past week, I have been we published our report, so I've been monitoring that. And I did a special preview of 2021 content. So some of you may be thinking I might go through some of the 2021 stuff here. I'm not really going to be diving into that because I don't want to repeat myself too much. So if you didn't catch that video, that's over on Facebook. It's on the Colourful Keys Facebook page. And you should be able to look at it even if you don't sign into Facebook, the way the privacy is set up. So hopefully that'll work for you if you don't want to be on Facebook, and that will fill you in on everything that's coming up next year, or a lot of the fun stuff that's coming up next year in the early part of the year. So I hope you'll check that out. So I was putting together the information for that and obviously broadcasting it, recording it, and doing some extra stuff for the 2020 send-off and publishing our report, making sure that went out smoothly. The report, by the way, I don't have this one bound. Isn't that shameful? But because of the way it's photographing it, but it's a lot of pages, and that looks kind of impressive all the same, even though it's not bound. So this is our 2020 industry report. It was published just yesterday on the blog earlier in the week for members, and it will give you insights into our beautiful music teaching industry. So as we think about predictions and hopes for the future, it's good to know where we are right now, and this report will fill you in on that. So you can get it on the Colourful Keys blog right now. There's also a podcast episode just published today where I go through it in quite a lot of detail and give my thoughts on it. So if you want my perspective on the numbers, in a more editorial way, then the podcast is the place to go for that, really. So that was published at midnight to facilitate the send-off calendar, to make sure everyone got it on time. So that podcast just went live, basically, and yeah, you can get it all the places you get podcasts, or on the Colourful Keys or Vibrant Music Teaching site. It's called the Vibrant Music Teaching Podcast. So yeah, that's a slightly longer episode than usual as well, so it's quite a big one, quite substantial. So hopefully you'll enjoy listening to that. Make sure to do it while you're doing something else. Well, you can sit and listen, but I like to listen to podcasts while I clean or organize studio things that don't require my brain, and I can just drift away and think about other things like music lesson statistics. Very exciting. So the other thing, the big part of my week actually, was taken up with preparing my slides for the Tanara Expo, finalizing them. I obviously had the idea of what I wanted to talk about and the content planned out, but I was putting together the actual slides, maybe a bit last minute, but it's on Friday, and I decided to do them in Canva. I like to stay on top of especially the free tools that are out there, so that when teachers ask about design tools and stuff, I can recommend them. So I do use Canva a bit, even though I'm an Adobe user. And so they had a slides feature, and it looks really interesting. So I'm happy to be a guinea pig for you guys in case you need to put together slides. I think it's a great option. And the presentation mode is really interesting. If you're like me and you don't use Microsoft stuff, this might be a good alternative. So anyway, I was putting that together and making it sparkly and fun, and I'm really looking forward to giving that presentation. That is this Friday. It's part of the Tanara Expo. So if you look up my Instagram or my Facebook, you'll find a promotional code where you can get a discount off that if you want to come along, but it's super affordable anyway. And there's so many amazing great sessions. Oh my gosh, so many sessions. Let me know in the chat if you're coming. Let me know if you're going to be there, because I would love to see you in the audience, as it were, the virtual audience there. Speaking of fun stuff that's coming up, so the Expo is one thing that's coming up this week, this Friday and Saturday. Great way to round off your week. Those happen to be my last days of teaching, so I finished teaching on Saturday, so I won't catch a lot of the sessions live myself, especially with the time difference and everything, but I'm really looking forward to the replays, and those will be available for a short window afterwards. So if you're like me and you can't quite make it live, then hopefully you'll be able to come along and watch the replays. Still well worth the price of admission. And again, let me know if you're going to be there, because I would love to see you. And if you do come, participate in the chat like you do here, because that's so useful and so much more fun for me as a presenter. And I'm presenting at the same time as two awesome people, so I will not hold it against you if you go live to Tim's presentation. Tim Topham is speaking at the same time as me, and so is Jennifer Fox. So if you decide, no, those are more useful for me, or I need to ask live questions to them, then do. But my presentation is about developing grittiness in students, and I hope that it's something that you want to hear about. It's certainly something I'm really passionate about right now, and the way I've put the presentation together, I think it'll be something new for you, something to help you see grit in a new light. So hopefully that's one of the fun things that you have on the horizon this week. Looking forward to seeing you there, Carrie. Hopefully you can make it live. That would be awesome. So, other fun stuff. I wanted to give another brief mention to the reindeer race game, because I know many of you are like me, heading into your last week of teaching this week. Let me know actually in the comments, is this going to be your final week? Have you already finished up? Are you continuing almost directly up to Christmas? How does it go for you in your studio? Over here, schools are continuing until Tuesday of next week, really tight to Christmas this year, but we're finishing up in the studio on Saturday. Saturday will be my last day of teaching. Yes, I teach on the weekends. So Saturday will be my last day of teaching, and yeah, I'd be curious to know when you're finishing up. But for final lessons, I know it's always great to have a themed on-topic game that's really relevant. So I wanted to mention Reindeer Race, since we have converted it to the Google Slides version, and I've been playing it with my students so much, and we've been loving it. And yes, it's silly. And just a very quick tip, if you do have students who say the cards are too small, like if they use a phone or an iPad, I've been hearing that from some people. So if that's you, just make the card bigger, like just physically make it bigger in Google Slides. You just click and drag the corner. That's what I did for one student last week, and worked grand. Yeah, it's not pretty, but it doesn't matter. You know, it's all about just playing and making sure it's functional for them. Otherwise, you can play the printed version, and you can of course play the printed version online and just hold up the cards to the screen if that's more your style. Then some other fun stuff. Well, the 2020 send-off is still on. That's continuing all the way up till the 25th. The last day will be the 25th. And if you haven't come along to it, I don't know why. It's too much fun. Why have you not been there? Let me show you what it looks like. Because it is just a blast. Let me know in the chat if you've been enjoying the 2020 send-off, if you've been playing with it and having some fun. I'll show you what it looks like on the screen now. So this is the 2020 send-off. If you're on the Vibrant Music Teaching site, I've included a handy link up the top, because I know many people are coming here directly for that at the moment. And I'm not going to open this door because you guys have to look it up later. But when you click on that, the door is going to open. It's going to reveal the surprise of the day. And then tomorrow when you come back, 15 will be opened. And don't worry if you're in a different time zone, if this doesn't line up for you. Like, if it's already the 15th where you are right now, that's okay. You can still open the 14th and then come back, and it'll be the 16th for you, and you can open the 15th. It doesn't matter. Just check it at roughly the same time at every day, and it'll all work out time zone wise. Okay? So that's the 2020 send off, and you can get to it at vibrantmusicteaching.com/2020. And I think I have a link for that somewhere so you can see in case anything's unclear. Oh, that's 2021. That's different. This is the link you want. vibrantmusicteaching.com/2020 if you want to come along and look at the send-off because it's so much fun. And each day is only there for one day. So you have to get them as soon as they go live, and they're a whole mix of things. And they're super fun. Therese, I'm so glad you're enjoying it. That was the whole idea. And Laurie as well. Oh, right. Well, Laurie, I would just save the link if that's the case. Just save the URL. In a lot of cases, they'll be from the blog or podcast, so you can certainly look them up. And since you're a member, you could just email support, and Gemma probably, or maybe Estrella, will help you to find the link. They're very good like that. Gemma especially has a fantastic, wonderful knowledge. It rivals even my own of our entire list of blogs and podcasts and videos and all the things. She's very good at finding things for people in case they can't find where they heard about something or read about something. So glad so many of you are enjoying it. Yeah, it's awesome. So hit the like button on this video if you're enjoying this video as well. And before we finish off the fun stuff section, officially, I wanted to let you know about the next one of these chats, because that's the next fun thing on your schedule, right? No, I know there's so much in between, but this is the last one of these Vibrant Music Teacher chats for this year. We're having 2 weeks off, and so we will be back on the 4th of January. Just into the new year, that's as long as you have to wait. So 4th of January, and we're going to be talking about productivity. Because it's the new year, and also because around the middle of January, we're coming out with our brand new Productivity Power Up course for Vibrant Music Teaching members. And so we're going to be talking about productivity all month, but in our usual VMT, no stress, no pressure to do all of the things all of the time. This is not about cramming stuff into your schedule. It's going to be productivity that feels good and feels easy and actually makes you more efficient rather than just spinning plates and running wheels and making a big mess. Because I feel like that's what a lot of productivity is. So that is going to be on the 4th of January. But for today, though, we're talking about predictions and ideas about the future of our industry and our studios. And I saw a few comments from you guys, so I'm just going to find those. Because I know you guys were talking about... Oh, that's great to hear, Elizabeth, that you used the concert etiquette cards. Oh, Teresa, yeah, my hope is we can continue to improve professional communication of the positive benefits and joy of music learning. That's lovely. Oh, fantastic. That's such a lovely wish and intention for our future. If... Gary, you're hilarious. She said, how is 4th of January in just 2 weeks? Oh, 3 weeks. You're a teacher. 2 weeks off means there's 3 weeks in between. That happens all the time with kiddos as well, where I say, okay, so we've 2 weeks off now, so I'll see you in 3 weeks. And they go, what? Like, that does not compute. But yes, that is what that means. Yes, so, predictions and hopes for the future. I've got 4 sort of themes. 5. I'm having a moment too, Carrie. 5 themes, which these are split up into. The first one is innovation. That's something that I think and hope is going to continue big time into next year and far beyond. Yes, this year we were forced to innovate. We were forced to get on board with new technology, but more importantly, we were forced to come up with new solutions to things we already knew how to do, or we thought we knew how to do. But much like many areas of life, there are some parts of that we'll find out we're doing better now. Share with me in the chat if you have something like that, something that you were forced into, but it's actually better. Maybe digital assignment sheets or a particular platform or anything that you were forced into because of online teaching or because of social distancing that you actually think is staying for the long term. What do you think? This makes me think of a almost social experiment that was run by mistake in London years ago. So there was a particular, those of you familiar with London will know that people really rely on the tube there, the London Underground, or the subway to Americans. So they rely on that to get around. I think it's the biggest subway system in the world. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. And anyway, London is massive and people often live and work at very different points from each other. And so they have to take the subway to get around the place, and they have to change lines normally because they're going all over the place. It's a huge city. So this experiment or this analysis looked at a time when one of these lines was shut. So they shut this particular line for a period of time to do some works on it. It was substantial, so it was shut for a little while. And so all of the commuters on that journey, they asked them, what way did you use to go? Like, you got Piccadilly to here and you connected to this one and then you got that one. And then what are you doing now? And then they asked them if they are now, when the line was back up and running, whether they kept their new route or went back to their old route. And a really large percentage of them kept their new route. And commuting in London is a huge part of your day for most workers. So, considering how big of a thing it is to shave a few minutes off of that time, which they obviously did since they kept their new route after it was back up and running, it just shows that we can be forced into a change and actually come up with a better solution because we have that fresh slate. So is there anything like that for you in teaching right now? Let me know. Susan said, creating online piano agendas, better planning for students, parents, and me. Teresa said, I was forced to teach online. As a result, absent students can continue the week's lesson and families have more options to serve them better. I love that. Carrie said, I started a Google Drive shared folder for each of my students when we went online. I wasn't sure it would work, but families and myself have access during the week to materials, etc. Keeping it. Yes, love that. Awesome. Yes, and many of us, Christy, are going to be keeping that, right? Keeping our Zoom lesson option. I mean, I already had it, but those of you who didn't, maybe you want to keep that. Maybe it's as a substitute option. Maybe it's for when Granny is babysitting them and Granny doesn't have a car, or they just can't get to the studio, or they're contagious, right? For normal year reasons, contagious. They just have something that is contagious, but they feel fine. So it's a great option for that. Yes, Ellen, that's a huge thing, and that's something that I encourage teachers to ask for anyway, and this is built into the onboarding series of emails. So if you go through the email template series in the library for members, in the beginning emails of when a new parent joins a studio, I ask them to send us a photo of their home setup. Like we send a photo saying, okay, this is little Johnny at the studio sitting correctly with his feet planted and point out all the things and then say, can you set this up at home so that we have side-by-side photos because it's fun for the folder. It's not really because it's fun for the folder. It is, and it's a great memento to have, but the real reason is so that you can check their home setup and make sure it is actually as described and correct, because most of the time it isn't, and they don't realize how important it is. And you're disadvantaging the students, the parents, the students who have parents who aren't going to realize the value of that. Yes, they can be a shocker, but for sure. So definitely something to carry into the future. If you don't already have a system for checking that, getting a photo is a great substitute when you're out of online lesson mode, Ellen, as well. Okay, so not only online lessons though, I see innovation in a big way in terms of recitals and alternatives to recitals and alternatives to exams or other kinds of highly pressured environments. What alternative options have you come up with? Have you done an online recital? Are you going to do another one? Or do you hate it and you cannot wait to go back into a recital hall? Are you going to mix them? In my studio, we probably will continue some form of the online video style recital, meaning the students pre-record videos and we broadcast them as a live recital. Parents loved it. It was a great response, and you definitely can get more family members to be able to attend. It's more open to those that live far away, to just having more people there, because our mid-year one is normally quite small. It's in my studio space here, right? So it's 30 max, and I split it up into small recitals, and I like that environment, but it does mean I have to say Granny can't come. It has to be just immediate family, right? So maybe that's an option you want to keep too. Maybe you've come up with another alternative. Maybe you did an advent calendar option with your video performances. I've seen some teachers do that, and that's super cool. And maybe you want to continue it, and that replaces the Christmas recital, but you'd still do the big one in the hall in spring. Let me know what you're going to be doing in terms of performances and projects. Still thoughts coming in about innovations you've taken on. I love these. Elizabeth said, I will do some online pre-recorded recitals and in the community. Yes, I love that. Yep, that's my style as well, Melissa. We have the same sort of style of recital and definitely worked out really well. I am really looking forward to our January one, actually, because I'm going to be able to make it a bit more consistent, because students can come one at a time to the studio, and if that continues in January, fingers crossed, we can record the videos here. So the production quality will be a bit better and just more consistent, no shaky cams, right? So that will be fun, and that's the version that I see continuing long term. Is not the version where parents have to record them at home, but the version where teachers record it in the lesson and then it's broadcast, I think could be a great alternative recital that we do regularly at the studio. Linda, you can do it! We believe in you. There's so much training here on the channel as well. I've done previous videos about it, so if you need more ideas of how to do it, definitely let us know or check out those videos. And also, if you are just scared to give it a go, pick the one that sounds the easiest. So if you're hearing us talking about YouTube recitals and you're like, oh my god, what on earth? But you can imagine just getting on a Zoom call, because you're using that anyway, and unmuting one person at a time while they play. Do that. Keep it simple. It doesn't have to be some big production. You don't have to do video editing. It can be simple, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Great example. This week's recital will be very casual, taking turns on Zoom. And you can pre-record the videos for the next. Yeah, they're all different experiences and they're very different. Like, if you do a pre-recorded video recital, that is, for the student, it's practicing preparing and playing over and over and recording something. And that's a unique skill. but performing live is a different thing. So they are actually separate, completely separate experiences for the student, in my opinion, and that's why I want to continue both. I think they're both valuable and both good for different kids as well. Different kids enjoy one or the other and are pushed and challenged in a good way by one or the other as well. Akila, that's great to hear. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so glad to have you as a member. Susan, you haven't used YouTube for recitals. It definitely means a little bit more tech if you're going to use YouTube. If you want a simpler option, well, no, I would still suggest YouTube as a better option, but you will need separate software to stream like I'm doing right now. You need software to do this. It's not like Facebook Live where you can do it from your phone or your computer natively within Facebook. You have to use software with YouTube still, as far as I'm aware. Every 2 weeks, Diane. Oh my gosh. I love that. What a great alternative. I hope that inspires some people to give it a go as well, because you can keep it small and just do it regularly and make it part of your schedule, and that could be awesome as well. Fantastic. So, yeah, alternatives to recitals, but also alternatives to exams. And many of you, because of this time zone, will be in the US watching this live. But if you're watching on the replay especially as well, maybe exams are a big thing in your country. And we have a special page of our report dedicated to this. You see that? Right, so that's exams in the US, exams outside of the US. Do you see the difference in the colours there? So we've got never in the US at about 70%, and never outside the US. Everywhere else, just make it focus again, everywhere else never is at 20%-ish. 70 versus 20. This is something, I was going to say vindicated. It's not like anyone was arguing with me, but there was this like perceived wisdom that exams in the US are far less common. Exams outside the US are far more of a cultural norm in music teaching. And we knew this to be true, but no one had any data on it. And the first report, the report we did last year for 2019, I looked at that number because I wanted to see, is it even as true as I think? And the numbers blew me away. It was way more different than I thought. And they're almost identical to last year, so it's proven to be very true. You were surprised by the report that more US students, teachers don't do it. Yeah, I think it's more common in some states than others. I think it's California where they have quite a popular standardized assessment. You guys might know better than me, but yeah, it's definitely very, very different in different parts of the world, and in the UK and Ireland and Australia, New Zealand, Canada, exams are pretty standard. In fact, they're default. Like if you, and I hate this conversation by the way, but you know the conversation teachers hate having where you say to someone says, oh, what do you do? And you say, I'm a piano teacher. And they say, and what's your real job? Right? You've heard people tell this story. I've never had that. People might think it, but they don't say it to my face. They would know not to do that. But what they do is say back to me, all right, so do you do the exams? Or you do the grades? Is what they often call it in Ireland. Oh, they do the grades, do they? No, I teach them music, is what I want to say. Like, who cares? Why is that your first question? That's crazy. But that's our culture, right? It's not that individual person's fault. That's the thing they know how to ask. And that's people who have no connection to music teaching, right? It's not music teachers. It's not necessarily anyone who's done the grades themselves. It's just so in the culture that they know that standard. Everyone would. Even people who don't know anyone who ever studied music. Yeah, but anyway, that's one of, I guess, my pet peeves. But yeah, my point about the innovation is there's been a lot of alternatives. So we've had recorded exams become an option, and while there's been problems with some of the exam boards putting together their systems and publishing the results, and it's again a very different experience, for some students it is actually better. They do prefer that environment of sitting at home and recording it and sending it in. And for some, it's been incredibly more stressful than going into an exam room with an examiner there. Because they know, similar to a recorded concert, they know they can re record it multiple times. And so they do. Again and again and again. And they drive their parents insane trying to get this perfect take. And they feel like the pressure is so much more. Whereas when you're in a room with an examiner, the examiner's supposed to know that you're going to be nervous, there's going to be jitters, and they have to take that into consideration with the performance. So, yeah, it's very interesting as a contrast, but alternative options and projects and everything are being innovated all the times. All the time. Akila said, I'm starting my piano studio in January 2021 with all your games, activities, and fun stuff. Woo! I'm sure you'll absolutely love it, really. And yeah, just once again, thank you for becoming a member. It's great to have you as part of the community. And I know you'll love it, and you can reach out to us at support or here in the community, in the forums, if you need any help as you get started. Now, I've only gotten to one of these 5. Oh my gosh, I knew I had to leave out those the email reviews, the website reviews, that's what I mean. So let's motor on. My theme number 2 is creativity. So we had innovation. The next theme that I think we're going to continue into next year and beyond is creativity. And yeah, I do mean that we're going to have more improvisation. More and more teachers are going to improvise with their students and compose with their students. Those numbers are already going up, and that's fantastic, and it's going to keep going up. It's going to become the norm. It really will. I see by the end of this decade, that's going to become pretty standard. It's not going to be that parents, when I say, oh, we do this and that, go, all right. And other teachers won't react like that either. It is going to become normal, and that's fantastic. But creativity does not just mean improvisation and composing. It also means creative solutions. Creative solutions to problems teachers and students have with access to music education and with learning challenges that students face. We're going to see more and more creative options and creative solutions coming from teachers. What's something creative that you've had to come up with this year that we haven't mentioned yet? Because we've had to innovate and we've had to come up with some creative options. And again, some of those will be, okay, that was fine for 2020, but I'm throwing it out the door as soon as I can. And some of them will be saying, that was pretty smart of me. I've seen some amazing things coming from teachers. So much. That is absolutely fantastic to hear. Me too. 1000%. And I know it's been a struggle for many teachers, including myself, in online lessons because we can't do the duet version of improv. And we can't. And that is sad. And there are other improv options, and I've put those out there. But I will say that's the number one thing, that when students can come to my studio, which they've been able to intermittently here, I make sure to prioritize improv. We spend the first several minutes of the lesson just playing music together, and it is wonderful. And it is for sure the thing I still miss most when we go back online, is being able to make music together in that way. But yeah, other creative solutions, I'd love to hear from you about those. Carrie said, like using packing tape to set up my overhead camera to the mic stand. Yep, like that. That is actually, I don't think I understand mic stands. That's my confession for you today. Way back, must be 6 years ago now, I bought a mic stand because I had heard you could use one to attach an overhead camera to, but I didn't understand different camera mounts and the screw fittings on them or anything. I was just completely baffled by all of this. And so I bought it and then it didn't adapt. And I had a little desktop tripod that did fit a camera. And I realized that's what I needed. So I just taped it to the top of the mic stand. And I still have that. And right now, one of the teachers who works with me, who for teaching online, has that. So that is her current rig. So it's lasted a long time. Duct tape works, guys. Mine was even like the novelty kind that you get in like a budget shop, like a dollar store. It was like brightly colored and crazy, and I just duct taped it, and it works. These things work. Yeah. I mean, who cares? And it's definitely a creative solution if you get the colourful kind of tape. I mean, I don't see how that couldn't count. So, awesome. Creativity is here to stay, and it's going to keep getting more and more creative. I truly believe that. My next theme for us moving forward is engagement. And what I mean by that is the opposite of the lesson where you just sit there and a student sort of gets through the lesson. Have any of you ever had one of those lessons as a student? Have you ever taught one as a teacher? I know I've been in both scenarios, right? A lesson where you just have to get through it and you're just barreling on as the teacher because you just become basically stuck in the mud. And you're just keeping going even though you're basically getting nowhere and the students' eyelids are drooping. That is what we're going to see a trend away from. We already have, I know we have, that's not good teaching. But the more engaging types of lessons we can give, the better we connect with today's students, and not just today's students, because I believe we focus too much on this idea of, modern kids today, right? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, they have problems with attention. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe some do. That's not what I'm on about here. We do need to make things relevant to the way they live in the world, to their culture, to what makes sense to them. But we also need to be more engaging teachers, as I term it. And by that I mean using games to teach, using interactive teaching methods, moving together, and teaching rhythm through movement, singing together, basically more activity and more different styles of teaching, and including current culturally relevant music to your students. All of that I consider part of the engagement factor. And the reason that I consider this so important is because it's going to reach more students who up till now haven't gotten music education. We're not actually shutting the door in their face, but we allow them to come in, and then we teach the way we normally do, and it doesn't work for them. But it doesn't mean they're not musical. They can be some of the most musical kids out there. Do any of you know any kids like this? Who you think if they were taking traditional piano lessons they would have stopped by now? I know a few in my own studio. And it just makes my heart hurt, honestly. They should have access to the music. Often it is the one place where they feel like they are fantastic at this. And it's because we teach in this engaging way. We use, as Paul Myatt would say, whole body learning, right? Moving around, singing, interacting, playing games. We don't have to teach stuck to a bench. And we don't have to make things stuffy, right? Diane, lots of off the bench stuff, eye-catching props, quick changes to keep their attention. And actually a trend I saw in the report about this creativity and the pacing, which I think is interesting, is, and you'll have to download the report to read all of these things because I'm not going to go through a bunch of statistics here. I already did that on the podcast if you want to hear me talk through it. But the amount of teachers who were teaching very young students surprised me, and how young how young, oh my god, how do I say that? The age at which teachers will take students, meaning the minimum age requirement in teacher studios was skewed younger than I thought it would. And that just makes this so much more important. We have to be engaging, we have to change activities often, we have to use different teaching methods because we're teaching different demographics. I don't have that report. I wish I started this report 20 years ago, but I was still a child, so I didn't. So, if I had though, I believe we would see a much older number there. Have you guys noticed this trend, especially teachers who've been teaching for a while? Do you think it's getting younger and younger? Because it seems that way to me and from other teachers that I talk to. And definitely it shows young numbers in the report. And my fear is that many more teachers are teaching younger and younger students, but they're not changing their teaching. And that's just not developmentally appropriate. And that kind of teaching is going to close those students off from music because they're going to be that adult who said, oh yeah, it just wasn't for me. I didn't get it. The reason they didn't get it is because they weren't taught in an age-appropriate way. So, yeah, Carrie, I'm getting a bit silly now. Sorry about that. Hard not to be stuck to the bench with online lessons, so I'd have to be even more creative. Yes, 2 of our themes right there, Melissa. But so true. Yes, it is really easy to get yourself and your students stuck to the bench, but it's not necessary. It's just easy to default to that. Don't you think so, Melissa? I know that's the way I was in the beginning lessons, and then I had to say, oh, hang on a second. I'm going to have to, and you have to be explicit about it. You have to say to kiddos, okay, we're going to get up and do this thing, listen to my directions, and then I don't mind if you go a bit off camera because you're going to need to march around or whatever. That's fine. You have to have that mutual trust there, and that shows them that you trust them as well. So that's really important. Yeah, Diane, me too. Standing to teach is really great. I'm standing right now, as you might realize, because I tend to jiggle around a bit more when I'm standing, but it makes such a difference to your energy level and your health, honestly. That sitting was really, really hard. And actually teaching in person is more sitting for me now. So that's something that maybe will be a consideration for you guys, that if you're going to be opening back up studios at any time in the future. But you're going to have to be socially distant from your students. I found myself stuck to a chair, and I've had to be quite careful about how I plan things to take that into consideration. Yeah, so that's theme number 3. We've got innovation, more creativity, more engagement, and engaging teaching methods. Number 4 is less fun, but more important. No, not more important, just equally important. And that is professionalism. I believe we've seen a trend, and we will continue to see a trend towards more teachers taking their teaching not as a hobby, but as a profession. What do you think? I think that is where the trend is going. And I want to be very clear that I don't mean every teacher should be a full-time teacher and this should be their big job. No. You can be a professional and have 1 student. Or you can act like a hobbyist and have 40 students. This is not about that. And I was really, really happy to see in the report that a lot of teachers who had only a few students filled out our survey. And that's great, because that's representative of our industry. If we tell the teachers who are only teaching a few students that they should be working for another studio, or they shouldn't be doing it if they can't commit to it, if we send out those kinds of messages or even imply those kinds of things, we are doing a disservice to our industry, because we're just sending them underground, They're just not going to come to these situations. They're not going to come to the community chats. They're not going to join professional development memberships. And that's a shame. We need them there. They're part of what we do. And not to get on some feminism high horse here, but that's a big part of what a lot of jobs do to women, is they basically push down the jobs that are suited to, raising a family or caring for elderly parents, as those roles often do fall on women. And piano teaching tends to be one of those. Music teaching is something that fits in with that for many women, and that's a fantastic thing. And so we need to be open to teachers with just a few students all the way up and see them as no less professional from each other. So what does it mean to be a professional? You let me know. What do you think? I think first of all, you acknowledge that you have a business, that you run a business, or that you are a professional working for someone else. You also charge fair fees, and I mean that you charge at or above the going rate in your area. You do not undercut local teachers because you think that you don't have the training, or that you're not as good as them, or you have some imposter syndrome, because all you're doing is undercutting them, so that's not helping them either. I'm not saying go into a market and charge double the rates even though you have no experience and they have 40 years experience, but you do need to charge a fair fee. Don't undercut just because you don't need the money, or you're just starting out, or XYZ. It's not right. You also, many of you will know this is one of my pet topics, but I also believe we will continue to see the downward trend of makeup lessons, because they're just not sustainable. They don't help our industry look professional, and they're unhelpful for us and the students. Moving lessons around all the time is not helpful for them. What you're doing is you're helping the students who, you feel like you're helping the student who moved the lesson, but you're taking time out of your schedule to do that. It's leaving you more tired. You have had to give up some other things, possibly your own practice. That's often the thing that gets cut for teachers, or your own downtime. And that makes you a worse teacher for your other students. So if you are someone who struggles with this and struggles with setting that hard line with makeup lessons, or with office hours, or anyone who pushes your boundaries, keep coming back to that. When you do that, when you give in, you're being unfair to the people who don't push. And they're the nice ones. Yes, Liveth, I'm so glad you think so. It's really important just to stay in tune with what our community is doing and keep learning things, as a teacher. It's really so vital. Woohoo! Love seeing messages like that. Every so often I get one. I just took the plunge, I just did it, or I almost eliminated makeup lessons like you. And I just love that. I love hearing that, because nobody should be teaching makeup lessons. And someone actually just agreed with me on that this morning. I can't remember where that message was, somewhere on Facebook. I didn't get back to them and yell at them. That's not my style. Okay, the final note on professionalism is something you might not want to hear. And that is paying attention to your numbers. Being a professional is not just outward, it's also about your numbers. Understanding your expenses and what you take in, and understanding your profit at a basic level. This doesn't have to be fancy pants accounting stuff. You don't have to go get a degree, okay? But you do have to understand your numbers and how much you're actually making. Because that's part of the fair fees thing. If you don't know how much you're making from those fees, you might end up undercutting the current rate because you think you don't need it, or you have cut expenses enough, but you haven't. And so understanding your numbers, that helps you with that, but it also helps you to save your brain space. When you really, get on top of these figures, you save brain space, you save stress and worry, and that is something you can spend on your family life, on your teaching, or anywhere else you want to. Okay, my last theme goes back to all of you, and it is community. I believe that studios are going to continue to build stronger and stronger communities with their students. through these innovative methods of connecting with students and performance opportunities and all of those things that we're doing and the new online tools that we're using to stay more connected with people, I believe that's going to continue, and we're going to build stronger and stronger communities. And this is how, when teachers come and ask about, some fad YouTube teacher or some app that they think is going to replace us teachers, I come back to community. If you have a strong studio community and you focus on that, parents will see the value in that. They will understand that that is at the core of what you do, and that they can't get it from an app, right? They just can't. And they can't get it from a budget cut costs teacher either. And if that's what they want, you shouldn't want them in your community. They are not a good fit for you. The other side of the community piece is this, as I already hinted at. All of you and all of the teachers around the world. I think we're going to continue to see this shift, which I have loved so much in the past 10 years or so. When I first started teaching, I had no idea what anyone else was doing in their studio. I had never talked to another teacher for a long time except my own. I had no idea what was done in different parts of the world or even down the street. And things are so different now for the people who come out of their own little bubble. And I think we're going to see more and more people continue to do that. Come out, step out into our lovely community. And if this community experience was one of your first, oh my gosh, you are so welcome. And just embrace it. Because having other teachers to connect with, to commiserate with, to share ideas with, it can only make us stronger. There's no protecting your own little precious way of teaching or way of doing business or plans, and teachers are seeing that more and more. I truly believe that. I know so many of you in the chat will agree with me that this is where we're going. And it's so important, and it's so much more enriching, isn't it? If you've been teaching for a little while, have you seen the shift? And has it made a difference for you? I'd love to know. It has certainly, and enormously, as you might be able to tell, made a difference for me. I love hanging out with you guys here each week. I love hanging out with the members inside the Vibrant Music Teaching community, and I'm just thrilled to be part of these changes that we're making to our industry. Long may it last. So thank you all so much for joining me for this, the last show of 2020. I'm going to see you in 2021 on the 4th of January, and we're going to be talking about productivity. So we're going to be a few days into the new year, and we're going to be ready to really get efficient and effective and just power into 2021 together. In the meantime, please take some time off. Please relax. Please spend some time on yourself. Self-care, right? So important. And with loved ones, if you're able to do that online or offline, if it's possible. And just take some time to relax. You have worked so hard this year. All of you. Honestly, I'm so proud of all of us. I think we've done an amazing job at writing this out, and that actually shows up in the numbers of students that quit this year, which is way lower than you're expecting in the report. So definitely go and check it out and see how few students actually quit, and what an amazing job we've done of continuing to bring music into everyone's lives. Thank you all so much again, and I will see you in 2021. Bye for now, guys.